In this episode of New York State You're Great, we're going camping at Frontier Town Campground in the Adirondacks.
We haven't camped out in at least 25 years, so anything could happen.
Hi, I'm Amy.
And I'm Laura.
And this is
New York State You're Great. We drove north to the Adirondacks on June 1st, which happened to be during the motorcycle rally known as Americade.
The weather was perfect. It was sunny and not too hot.
We drove through small towns and past green forests on our way.
We couldn't check in at the campground until the afternoon, so we paused for a hike at the Pinnacle Preserve.
This is a very popular hiking spot, and for good reason. We ended up with a gorgeous view of Lake George.
The Adirondacks have some great old neon motel signs, so we stopped for photos now and then.
Another stop, the Frontier Town Trading Post, a shop with souvenirs, snacks, restrooms, and some small exhibits about the old theme park. Part of this building was the original Frontier Town A-frame Welcome Center and restaurant.
It was almost time to check in, but we had one big thing to do first. All right, so we're up in North Hudson, New York, and we're actually walking down the trail. It's an old road into the old Frontier Town amusement park. The remains are still down here, so we're going to check out what there is to see and hopefully get to explore a little bit. So cool. This whole thing here used to be all little Western themed storefronts. Frontier Town opened on July 4th in 1952 and was run by Art Benson and his partners until the early 80s. After it was sold, it stayed in operation from 1989 to 1998 when it closed for good. Most of the contents of the theme park were auctioned off in 2004, with the buildings left to deteriorate in the woods of North Hudson. So that was really cool. We just got to explore quite a bit of the remains of Frontier Town. Grass is pretty high, so, we stayed out of the thicker areas, but we still got to see a lot of great stuff, especially the church The old church is probably the best of all the buildings. It's incredible, so neat. I took tons of pictures on my film camera, and we took lots of video footage. It was just awesome.
As Amy said, that was amazing. Now we're gonna go and check in at the campground. But before that, we drove around to see a couple more pieces of the old Frontier Town Park in the area. And then it was time to check into our very first campsite.
We found the campsite pretty easily and drove in to set up. Here we are on our first camping trip together.
I camped as a Girl Scout when I was much younger, but not really since then at all.
I used to camp quite a bit, like when I was 19, 20, and I used to camp quite a bit actually up in the Adirondacks, but this is a new campground. It was built maybe 5 years ago, and so far we're really enjoying it. It's really nice. The campsites are great. Beautiful here. We've actually got the Screwen River right near our campsite. You can hear it. Lovely. It has nice brand new bathrooms. It's really clean.
There's a little trail just off of our campsite so that we can go and walk along the river and have different views of the river. And yeah, it's just been so relaxing. And we started our first campfire. You started our first campfire.
Yeah, and I actually used flint. I wasn't sure I would be able to do that, but yeah, it worked. And honestly, that's kind of thanks, I think, to Adventure Archives. We watch their channel a lot, and you know, they love to use feather sticks and things like that. And so tried feather sticking.
We tried.
It went okay. It didn't go great.
We have to keep practicing.
We have to keep practicing, but that's okay.
But the tinder joint worked great with some dryer lint and some newspaper.
Yes.
That worked very well. It worked so well that I didn't get it on camera because I didn't expect it to work that fast, and all of a sudden we had a fire. And so I didn't catch the moment of catching fire, but I got it close after.
Yeah. So it was great, and we cooked dinner over the fire, and that turned out pretty well. We've got tempeh that's been marinated in Italian dressing, and we've got some potatoes, and we have zucchini and peppers, and they've all just gotten drenched in a little olive oil and some Mrs. Dash and some salt. It's really good.
We recently watched the first episode of Equestrian. It's an anime about camping, and according to that first episode, pine cones make really good kindling. So we tried using some pine cones as kindling for our fire, and they're amazing. They work really well. I'm going to put a pine cone on our fire just to show you how well it works. Catches really quickly and easily and burns and sends up a nice big flame. Pretty cool.
One of the reasons that we decided to try camping is that we've been wanting to actually go backpacking, thanks to watching two channels in particular, Adventures of A+K We have watched all of their videos and adventure archives, and we thought, well, maybe we shouldn't go backpacking for our first try at it. Let's actually, get a bigger tent and just go to an established campground, see how we like it, kind of ease our way into something like backpacking. So,
yeah, it's baby steps.
Baby steps.
But we're going to get there.
Yeah.
There are so many trails we want to hike. We have to get there.
Yeah. We'd love to do a lot more long distance hiking in the Adirondacks, and you have to be able to backpack for that. So this is our first shot at least camping, and then we'll see how it goes. We'll build from there.
Yeah, we'll make it. Here we go. First night sleeping in our tent.
Well, that was a rough night. Got like an hour of sleep around 5 o'clock this morning. Not used to sleeping outside in a tent, and it was freezing, but we're alive.
Even if it was too cold to sleep and we headed out early, we still had a great time, and we can't wait to try again with everything we learned on this trip.
One reason that I'm really excited about checking out this Frontier Town Campground in upstate New York is that I actually have a small collection of memorabilia and souvenirs from when it was a theme park back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. They made the weirdest things as souvenirs back in the day. Like, this is a barrel of eggplants that turns into a salt and pepper shaker, but slap a Frontier Town logo on it and you've got an instant souvenir. I actually have a much larger collection of just memorabilia and souvenirs from theme parks all across New York State, including Catskill Game Farm and Gaslight Village and Storytown, which is what it was before it was the Great Escape, and then Six Flags Great Escape, all kinds of things, Howe Caverns, Land of Make-Believe. So I'm really excited about checking this place out because I also get to explore the remnants of the theme park that are right next to the new campground. I've always sort of had an affinity for that vintage vibe and that style and that old school stuff. So that's why I started collecting memorabilia and souvenirs from all of those theme parks. But in doing that, I think it's really helpful to acknowledge that oftentimes these theme parks had some problematic attractions. For instance, Frontier Town had what they called an Indian village, and it was replete with teepees and powwows and folks dressed up in, Native American garb, which was just totally incorrect and harmful, and we have to acknowledge that harm. You can't look at the history of this and enjoy the history of these things without that acknowledgement, without knowing that these tropes just perpetuated the harm against Native communities across the United States. And there are places that still do this constantly. So while I think that we can, look back at these times with a bit of nostalgia and enjoy certain aspects of it, we do have to be mindful of the history and the harm, and going forward, just vow to do better and to be better and to hopefully help educate people on the harm that these things did, and hope that people, learn from it. Thanks for joining us on our first foray into camping.
We might not have traveled halfway across the world while carrying all our essentials on our backs like our favorite YouTubers, but we learned so much on this trip about camping, about nostalgia, and about ourselves.
To start planning your visit to Frontier Town Campground, check out the information in our video description.
And while you're here, please like this video and subscribe to our channel so you can find out more about what makes New York State so great.